In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Hello, everybody. This is Adam Lambert. And that laugh is Vanessa Lambert.
And that is me. Because obviously I'm the silly one in this relationship. Let's face it.
Yeah, it's true. I'm the one that says things and you're the one that laughs about them.
This is actually true. It takes one to know one, though, right? No,
yeah, it's true.
That's not right. It takes one to make the other one funny.
That's actually a good question, right? So is someone actually funny if there's no one around to laugh?
Oh.
Right? It's kind of like the whole, if a tree falls
in the woods. That's actually true. Are you actually funny if no one's laughing at you? Something to ponder in your spare time.
Okay, but if there's people around and you're trying to be funny and they're not laughing, then you're probably not funny.
Then you're probably not funny.
But if there's nobody around,
right,
and you say something funny, is it still funny?
Is it still funny?
Damn.
A question for all the ages.
It is. I'm going to think about that.
All right. Well, we're starting it off with a real brain twister.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't paying attention, hopefully we just got your attention.
Yeah. One way or the other.
So, awesome podcast coming up.
Yes.
We've got some awesome pipe hitters.
Pipe hitters.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's the word.
Yeah. The last couple weeks.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting. There's a common theme, and we talk about it a little bit in this podcast, but this common theme, I'm just going to point it out in case you missed it. But so we talked to Josh Trent last week.
Right.
Josh Trent.
Yeah.
And we're talking to Sarah Fragoso today. Mm-hmm. And something that I think is interesting in this thread is that they both got their start in helping people through strength and conditioning, and both have migrated more into the mindset mindfulness piece.
Aha.
Interesting. Kind of like you.
Except opposite.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, it is true. I definitely started with the mindfulness piece of it over the strength and conditioning.
No, well, okay, but you were a nutrition coach before you were getting paid to be a mindfulness and mindset coach.
Oh yeah, I was definitely slinging all that for free for years before anybody paid me. That is true.
Yeah, right.
That's because I didn't know you could get paid for that.
Yeah,
but I definitely came to. I mean, obviously, I was an athlete growing up, so there was a physicality to my practice always. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I definitely came into helping people or helping myself through mindfulness, through self-help, through that kind of thing, over being a strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, but then we're not talking about you. We're talking about how you started helping other people.
Oh.
You were a trainer at a CrossFit gym in Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were a nutrition coach for Mark Sisson.
I don't think you know me.
You coached at all of the... Trust me, I'm right on this. This is the same path that you've been on.
Okay, no. I mean, I guess so. It's funny that you say that you point that out to me, though, because in my mind, I always think of myself more in the self-help or like meditation, mindfulness camp.
Right.
And that strength and conditioning came sort of as a byproduct. But I guess you're right. Technically, if you look at who paid me to do what first.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's actually, this is a good segue, because I think that this is what we tend to find. And I think that you were in fact an early adopter where you're like, okay, I'm going to coach you on your nutrition, but what you really need, is
100%.
Is this.
Yes.
And so you'd use your knowledge about strength and conditioning and nutrition as a lever to get into the mindfulness mindset stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because, and that was the whole reason Authentic Self came about, because I was like, okay, we can keep telling you to take better care of yourself, get this many hours of sleep, get, blah, 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 do all these things. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is get to the bottom of what your story is and why you don't believe that you can take care of yourself, or what is going on underneath the skin, so to speak, that is really fueling this process you're in. So for sure.
Yeah. What's going on between the ears?
Yes, exactly.
Like right in between the ears too. Like honestly,
right.
It's that weird transition between the lower brain and the upper brain that, in technical terms, the bottom brain and the top brain.
Hemispheres.
Well, no, the hemisphere. I guess it's hemispheres.
Yeah, they're hemispheres, right? Yeah.
Well, when I think hemispheres, I always think left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they're still hemispheres.
Well, there certainly are in the world. Yeah. Top and bottom, north and south, So we're just going to go out on a limb here and say that they're hemispheres.
That it pertains to brains. So we're off and running on this podcast.
We are, but I'm going to bring this all together.
Yeah, bring it back.
Trust me. There's a method to the madness. So the one thing that I think I can assure you guys on, that there's little to no risk of me making that transition from strength and conditioning coach to mindfulness and mindset coach.
Oh, I want somebody to drop a pin on this and just make a mental note of this, because I see you wearing white robes in the very near future.
Well, you can wear white robes in the gym, but this is the thing. This is why you and I actually work so well together, because my focus and my passion and my brain operate differently than yours.
Absolutely.
And the two things are necessary, I think, for long-term continued growth for our clients and for ourselves.
Agreed.
But if left to my own devices, that's not the approach I would take.
We are basically two hemispheres operating as one brain.
At least we're spinning around the same axis, so to speak. So on that note, Body Mind Roadmap is my contribution to handling the nutrition component of how to do all of this stuff through behavior change.
It is. Oh my God, I love you so much, because you know what? It is your contribution. And I love that you said that, because I think if people know you, they get that. They get that, like, this is your path to really contributing to the well-being of people's lives. This is the way in which it will make a profound difference in who they are in the world. And I'm really glad that you led with that, because that is fundamentally what you are out to do, is make a contribution to the well-being of the people in that class. Yeah.
Yeah. I want people to have the freedom and understanding of their bodies and what to do with them that I have and that you have. And there's a lot of ways of getting there, I think.
Yes.
But the way that I have developed, found, I don't know, come up with, whatever you want, or whatever, insert whatever word. Yeah, I mean, and invented is probably not, we're all standing on the science and research and understanding that a lot of other people have done.
Yeah, sure.
But this path is the one that I've carved out, and people have been really successful with it, just as I have, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too.
And it feels like I've found a spot in here that really fits for me, and I know exactly how to help people get to this point of understanding themselves and understanding what they need to do to reach their goals. And in a way that I think is about as sustainable as it can get.
Yes.
It's like you come away with the tools and the knowledge and the skills to roll on out in whatever direction that you want to go with your nutrition, based on probably your goals,
Yes.
And so that's exciting to me. It's like, I'm happy for it. I'm happy to drive a stake in my contribution and say, okay, this is what I'm doing,
Yeah, no, I'm happy for you too, because I understand, it's like, I think folks, especially when you think about coaches, you think like, we have a system and this is it. And you kind of know like, oh, that's Be the Wellness's thing. They do this. And especially if you've been with us in Unveil Your Wellness or other, other coaching programs, you kind of go, oh, and you sort of say, oh, this is their system, and you just kind of like check the box with knowing. But what you don't realize is that as coaches, we are always reinventing the wheel too, in the sense that we are trying to dive deeper and deeper into what will make a substantial and profound difference in your lives. And so we keep tweaking, we keep sorting through and distilling out what is really making an impact for people and carrying that forward, and, changing the programs and kind of reorganizing them so that they really keep representing the what we really believe at the time and what we're seeing results with.
Yeah, totally. And so, I mean, this is realistically the culmination of 20 some odd years of experience and knowledge and, trying to do this and trying to impact the way that people behave around food and the way that they, eat their food and the way that they relate to their own bodies when it comes to reaching their goals through, myriad different scenarios, from, starting with myself and then taking it into the fire department, at the, like, my station level, and then my battalion level, and then eventually like the entire state level, and then taking it out to regular people, because fundamentally the people who are asking for it are the ones that should get it,
Right.
And what I was finding in the fire department is that not very many people were asking for it, but I was giving it,
Right.
And, so I'm sure that there were plenty of people, I know that there were plenty of people who were impacted by that work, but now I feel like I just have this outlet for it. And this, I really think, removed from all of the dogma of different diets and different ideas around what's better, keto or paleo or primal or Mediterranean, or, name your various, diet,
Right.
for lack of a better term. What we're teaching in Roadmap applies to all of those things.
Yes.
And is fundamentally I think I've said fundamentally 3 times so far in this podcast. Somebody pointed out to me the other day, we were at a party and everybody was making fun of my podcast voice. And
One person in particular, you know who you are.
Yeah, and then somebody else chimed in and was like, fundamentally, and I was like, damn it, I do say that so much. But it's a good word.
Funny.
I know. But it makes me happy. Like, people listen to the podcast enough to know.
Yeah, you've got key phrases. That's your signature word.
Yeah, but what Roadmap really is doing is taking all of those fundamental underlying...
That didn't have the LY at the end.
Right.
So
These are just the fundamentals, right? That underlie a healthy approach to fat loss, a healthy approach to muscle gain, a healthy approach to just maintaining your health. And you can apply those to anything.
Yes. And through that process, you may discover, oh, actually, I do sway a little more keto, or I do sway a little bit higher carb, because you're giving people the actual process of finding what truly works for them.
Yeah.
And it was one of the cool things. We've been going through some of the testimonial footage from people who've been doing this coaching with you over the last year. And one of the things that really resonated with me was that it was so refreshing for the particular person I'm thinking of, that it wasn't about the dogma of a diet. It was about truly finding out what worked for her. And for the first time, she had felt like someone actually took her through a process to figure that out. Whereas before, it was about, let me try keto, let me try paleo, let me try this, and let me try all these hats. But nothing was quite a customization for her, and it was not created through her own self-discovery in this process of learning. And I think that, if you haven't come to those things through a process of learning and really figuring it out step by step, you can find yourself just trying to white knuckle a certain diet that everyone's talking about or everyone's doing, and, and feel like, I guess it's not working, I'm not strong enough, I don't have the willpower, or whatever. But this is actually a process to figure out what you need.
Yeah. We're going to wipe the slate clean and start from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And that's, what I found is that there's a lot of freedom in that. And that's
so much
not
freedom.
really something that it wasn't like the intention. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create something that makes it like way easier and frees everyone from their, habitual dieting or whatever that is. But that's really what what it has become.
The end result.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage anybody out there who doesn't feel like they absolutely understand what and how what their body is saying and how it reacts to different foods, and like really hasn't found that sweet spot where not only are they in that happy homeostasis, as we love to say, but they're also like they can actually verbalize when something's happening. Oh, I have a hunger pain, or I've been emotional today, or have tons of sugar cravings, or whatever. They can actually verbalize to you what's happening on a physical level and what to do about it, how to address it. And if you're not at that level, then, getting this kind of education is so beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super helpful.
It's super helpful. Yeah.
Yep. And that's all I have to say about that.
That is all, folks.
But the important piece is that the next Body Mind Roadmap actually starts on August 5th.
Yes.
And so if you're interested, head on over to the website. I'll put a link down below, but get over there, check out the page, get on the list, and let's do it. Yes.
And the cool part about this is you're actually doing it as a community. One of the cool things when we first started Unveil Your Wellness is we had a whole bolus of people come in from the 21-day Primal Blueprint Challenge. So a whole kind of like group came in, started together. And that's what's cool about this is that you'll have a group, you'll start together, you'll go through the whole process, you'll have this community support. And you have coaching calls, like live coaching calls with Adam twice a month, which is amazing. So it's not only you're figuring this stuff out, but he's like actually coaching you in those calls to like dial in the specifics of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's badass.
It's
You're
it's
badass.
good stuff. Aw, thanks. You know who else is badass?
Who?
Sarah Fragoso.
She is badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, for folks out there who've been hiding under a rock and have never heard her name, no, she's, I say that just but because she's been in this health, fitness, paleo world for a long time. In fact, as long as we have, although she really was one of the first of our group. And when I say our group, that means our, Rob Wolf NorCal incubator that we all came from, to really go out and start her own brand and start her own blog, which was Everyday Paleo, and, sort of start to make her mark in this whole health and well-being world. Yes. And, she's an international bestseller, 5 books.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
I know. She just keeps cranking them out.
And, of course, she founded the Everyday Paleo brand. She has her own gym, JS Strength and Conditioning in Chico, California, with her husband, John, who we adore, who was on the CrossFit team with us in
2009,
a million years ago. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's also the person who introduced us to ART. And if you've been listening to us for any period of time or have ever asked for advice about any musculoskeletal issue, we will always refer out to an ART.
Yes.
Because Dr. John Fragoso opened our eyes to it.
Changed our lives with it. Yeah, it's really cool. And so Sarah has a new book out called Hangry, and it is co-authored with Dr. Brooke Kalanick. And it just launched June 4th.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool because, you hear a title like Hangry and everyone knows what it means and everyone has been there, but you never really think about what's going on in your physiology when you hear that. You're just like, oh, I need to eat. Like,
blood sugar's low.
Blood sugar's low. But like, there's really so much to what's going on when you are looking around and in your life, you actually realize that that's who you've become in the world.
Right.
And so this book is really addressing that. And, Sarah just puts out quality work. It's always highly researched. It's always well done. And it's always done with a lot of heart and soul. So if that speaks to you on any level, make sure to check out the book and enjoy this podcast.
Indeed. Without further ado, here's Sarah. Hi. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Hey.
Hi. We're going to try not to just make this conversation all about just catching up because
I was thinking the same thing. How do we not do that?
I know. I'm like, I just want to ask how the kids are, how John is. But
I mean,
yeah, we could totally go through that. But it's really exciting to have you. Obviously, for folks out there who don't know, we all come from the Rob Wolf camp. Yeah. Which the incubator, as we refer to it in our house.
Right. Totally. Or like the guinea pigs,
Yes.
pigs. Yeah, all those things.
All those things. And obviously Rob was cooking up something because, you know, a lot of amazing things came out of that CrossFit / NorCal strength and conditioning, you know, group that was sort of, you know, one of the, I guess it was really in the infancy of CrossFit and this whole paleo world and that whole thing. And you definitely blasted out of that. So it's really cool just to see, you know, the trajectory of where you've gone. And also just reading the story, going through Hangry and reading about your backstory. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Like, we're all there.
I remember all of this. Yes. Yeah. And so I want to start with actually the backstory because I actually, when I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, you know, you talk about being, I don't want to say an overachiever, but obviously somebody who is really driven and committed and has a lot of passion for life, but also is raising 3 kids and, you know, having a full family and house to take care of and deal with. And I remember at the time thinking, how the hell does she do it all?
Not very well.
Because literally you had a lot of balls in the air. You had just started Everyday Paleo, the blog, you were coaching at the gym, you were running a household. So maybe you can just tee it off with all of this backstory and kind of just talk about, you know, finding yourself in this place where you thought that you were doing all the right things, but somewhat finding yourself back in the same space of like, you know, just having all of these issues with the different paint color, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it when you said that, right? And I think that's really like the downfall of a lot of women and people really who are super driven and really feel like they want to conquer the world and do it all. And I don't think I've ever really felt like I've wanted to conquer the world. Like that's not ever been me, right? Like you guys know me pretty darn well, right? Like I've never been like, I'm going to be the next Oprah. Like I just, when I want to do something and I'm passionate about it, I tend to overcommit. But I think I know now, I know now, since I know myself so much better and looking back over the last 12 years, actually my whole life, to be honest, a lot of what I have done for the sake of achievement has been to also like mask my pain. Like what can I do to really distract from being fully engaged in my life? Because that's really freaking scary. So, not that the things that I've done or accomplished have been bad or not worth it. And I really don't have regrets about, you know, things that have happened over the course of the last 12 years, especially because I've, you know, learned so much about health and about wellness and about myself. I feel like where I've landed now, like everything that happened to get here was so important and also really hard and really uncomfortable and scary and overwhelming, but good. So much good in it too. You know, we had so many amazing experiences over the last several years and some really stinking, grueling ones too. So, you know, now I'm still Sarah, like I'm still driven. I'm still passionate about what I do. You know, I've still got that type A tendency, but you know, everything I've always done has been with like this force of wanting to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons, that, you know, I show up for the people that I love. But I took that like way too far where I was carrying so much of other people's stuff, including my own family's, that I didn't know what Sarah was even supposed to do with herself anymore. I really didn't know, you know, where I fit into my own life or what brought me joy. And it made me really sick. And that manifested itself in several different ways over the years. You know, I'm sure you guys remember when I just totally crashed and burnt, like,
yes,
like back in 2011. And I'm like, oh, adrenal fatigue. Okay, let's fix that. Like, my next job, right? Instead of like, really diving in and being like, why did you beat yourself up to the point, Sarah, that you were immobilized? Like, why did you do that? Instead, I'm like, okay, next job is to fix that. And then that, you know, I did kind of come back from that. And then that drove me deeper into the ground to not really address like why I have that tendency to drive myself into the ground. So, yeah, long story short, it's been a lot of soul searching and really honing in on my spirituality and my mindfulness practice and opening up to my own shit. Oh, do we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Like sitting in my own stuff, right? Like being like, whoa, okay, there's a lot I need to really address. So yeah, I'm in a much happier place now, and it's still a lot of hard work, but definitely feel more, like I'm in the driver's seat instead of just like in this helicopter out of control around, like,
right.
Yeah. Settling with power.
Looking for the ripcord.
How to punch out of it. It's so interesting because, I mean, like we were saying before, it's like we all came from this same spot, and health and fitness, or specifically fitness, and then subsequently nutrition was like our first lever into improving ourselves and improving the way that we, kind of show up in the world one way or the other. And it seems to me like so far that the inevitable sort of track that you follow with this is that you get your physical piece squared away, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't support you anymore, or something breaks, and you end up having to go all the way back to the beginning and start this whole new journey in a mindfulness mindset, spirituality component, because those two things just have to be balanced out,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. Because we'll find a way to distract ourselves in some other unhealthy manner. Right. And fitness felt healthy. Like, I'm doing something really good for myself by paleo dieting and CrossFitting as hard as I possibly can. Right. Like I would be competitive somehow. Like I would go over that. Right. Like,
well, it's really funny because I was actually just literally writing a little post about the beginning days when, CrossFit and paleo really came online at the same time. And our whole crew up there was CrossFitting really hard and eating super low carb.
Right.
And I was, I was remembering back, like I would literally freak out and have these binges where I would Katie and I would go to In-N-Out Burger and just like smash French fries and then feel really bad about ourselves, but just be like, I don't know, I've been boarded by an entity that needs carbs. And, I look back on it and I'm like, thank God we actually did that, because without our really realizing it, we were actually like giving ourselves some carb refeeding and like probably saved ourselves some serious pain.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I think that I was like a little more hardcore, right? Like, I didn't allow myself that as often as I should have, for sure. Because I'm that like that. I can be very disciplined, right? But to a fault, and letting go of some of that and being able to be really in tune with my body for the first time, it's so empowering. And now my mission is to help other women understand that that's okay, to know your own body and to trust it and to be empowered and to be mindful about what you're doing, and there's a lot of talk right now in this space about like intuitive eating and intuitive exercise, which I think can be interesting. But I know that my intuition has sometimes told me to do really stupid things. Right? Where, if my hormones are out of whack, intuitively, I want to drink wine all day.
Right.
And, that's probably a bad idea. So I think that it's a healthy way to approach food for some people, but it's not for me. Like I have to be really mindful. I have to be in my own body and not lost in my head of, all the rules I'm supposed to follow and all the things that I've been told and all the stupid things I've read on the internet and not stupid things I've read on the internet, right? Like all the great studies that have been done on a ketogenic diet or a high carb diet or low carb, whatever. There's all this good stuff. But if I swim around in my head, I can't ever get in my body and be like, wait, my hormones are talking to me and saying, Sarah, you don't need to go work out today. You just need to take a nap because you haven't slept well and you're under stress, instead of the rule of, I need to strength train 5 times a week and eat a paleo type. That doesn't work, right? We all know that. It doesn't anymore.
It would have worked by now if it did work.
Right. Or it works for a minute anyway, and then the wheels fall off. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about the book. It's called Hangry: 5 Simple Steps to Balance Your Hormones and Restore Your Joy. Yes. And I want to talk about this term hangry because, you can obviously look at it. You talk about, being a hangry bitch, and it's like, there's a couple of different sides to this. There's actually like a physiological side to what that means. And there's also like a spiritual side to it. So maybe you can just tackle it by telling us first, what is the physiological side of what, that term is referring to?
Oh, absolutely. So, we all understand what that term is, right? Hangry bitch. And when we put this book together, Dr. Brooke Kalanick, my co-author, and I, we're like, we really don't want to refer to ourselves as that or anyone else, but it doesn't embody women, especially when it comes to the physiological perspective. I really believe it's something we all can relate to, though, right? Like, when your insulin is all out of sorts and your cortisol is all out of sorts, those two hormones that we have the most control over, we literally feel like a crazy person. Like, we feel like and we're behaving in ways that aren't even who we are, right? And so when those two hormones, like I talked about, are in balance, it's so much easier for us to do what I just mentioned, where we're in our own bodies, kind of listening to our cues and knowing how to respond when things start to maybe go off the rails a little bit. But when we're in this perpetual state of things just completely out of whack, and, there's more to hormones than obviously insulin and cortisol. But we talk about those two the most in the book because those really are the two we have the most control over in real time. We can all feel when we're having that crazy drop in blood sugar, right? We know when our cortisol is out of whack once we start to learn a bit more about it. Like, why am I not falling asleep at night? Why, when I wake up in the morning, I'm so tired, I can hardly get out of bed, and I need 3 cups of coffee to even feel like I'm functioning. So physiologically, like when your blood sugar especially is on a roller coaster ride, yes, you are the epitome of a hangry bitch. And also, if you have any sort of low thyroid issues dumped in on top of that, then it just makes the matter even worse. So, it's definitely a real phenomenon. It's not just like
it's not fictitious.
It's just not a kitschy term, right?
No,
and then
exactly.
So then, on the flip side of that, what do you think is really like the spiritual component of what's happening there? Because obviously, the physiological is half of the story, but then, there's also that spiritual identity and the identity that goes around with being in that state. And so how do you talk to people about kind of the spiritual side of looking at this?
Oh my gosh. Well, this one is, I think, so important to address because I know for myself personally, when things would be out of balance or out of whack, the first person I would blame would be myself, like, oh my God, Sarah, like all this horrendous self-talk that I wasn't even aware of until I started to really pay attention. I can't believe that you're so effing exhausted. Like, get it together. Like, that's my favorite critical self-talk that I like. Give to myself is, Sarah, get it together. How much more together am I supposed to be? I look at my and I'm like, wow. Like, instead, maybe say, Sarah, look at all you've accomplished today, and you held it together pretty darn well, right? And so, it makes us more hangry and more bitchy when we're beating ourselves up all the time and berating ourselves for things that we sometimes don't even have any control over, or we don't understand the physiology of why our body is behaving this way. I hear it all the time from my clients and myself. Old me, of course, I still have that critic. I still have to listen and I still have to pay attention and quiet her because she can be a real nasty bitch. Like, she's and awful to me.
But that's bossy, right?
That's not my spirit. That's not my heart. That's conditioning. That's my old stories. So, coaching women through this book and the women I work with one-on-one on tuning into the tone of your voice. Like, is it how your best friend would talk to you? How would you talk to your own child, right? If your kid has a hard day, are you going to be like, yeah, loser? Of course, look how bad you messed up today. I mean, no, like, I hope not. Please don't talk to your kids like that.
Right.
But why do we talk to ourselves that way, right? And when we're not in our own bodies and we're not in a place of acceptance, and I don't mean I love everything about my whacked out hormones and my genes that don't fit, right? That's also really hard to just jump to. But if we can be in this place of neutrality, of understanding, our bodies are here to show up for us, like starting to establish some trust and tuning into our hormonal cues, like what our bodies are trying to tell us, then, spiritually, it becomes more of a connection to understanding like why I'm feeling this way versus berating ourselves over it, or dieting harder or exercising harder, or like giving up entirely. Right. So there's so much to that we could talk about for 3 hours.
I know. It's a rabbit hole for sure.
It is, yeah. I want to kind of hover on something you said though right at the end, and that's this idea of giving up entirely, because this is something that I think we see a lot, right? It's like you try this thing and you try this thing and you try this, and we talk quite a bit. We talk about it quite a bit, I think is what I'm trying to say, on the podcast and in our programs and stuff. And it's, because I think it's really easy to say, well, you know what, just keep trying stuff until you find what works. And it's true, but you have to go into that with the understanding that every time you try something and it fails, that it kind of chips away at your desire to continue trying stuff. You're like, God, man, just nothing works for me, And so I'm wondering, for folks who kind of fall into that camp where maybe they've, not quite given up, because obviously they're reaching out to you or buying the book and trying to understand this stuff, but they're right there on that tipping point. And what kind of advice do you give folks like that? Or what could you tell people to take action on that's going to help sort that out? Right.
Well, it's so hard to let go of the dogma, right? Because we want things to be simple. We want to be able to pick up a book and read a plan and do it and then have it work. And that's not how we've evolved to be. It's not how human beings are. It's not how any animal is, right? There is not just one plan that's going to work for me and work for Adam. I mean, look at us. You guys are two very different people here, right? And so whatever it is that you do for fitness and for nutrition, I'm guessing is a lot different than what I'm currently doing. So to pick up a plan written by whatever guru is out there and follow it by rote and then go, God, that didn't work again, and then jump on to the next one is absolutely exhausting. So, when I'm talking to my clients one-on-one, and then in this book too, we talk a lot about how we just need to let go of the dogma and also let go of the idea that there's going to be a very specific way that this is going to work for you and all your best girlfriends. Right. So Hangry does have a jumping off point, right? So in our plan, the Hangry Bitch Hormone Reset, we're like, okay, you all got to start somewhere, right? So let's shake up your metabolism a little bit, help balance your blood sugar and your cortisol. Let's cut out the foods that we know are inflammatory. And then we have them take a quiz. There's several quizzes in the book that help women sort out what hormone issues they're actually most likely experiencing. Testing is fantastic, of course, and really the best way to know for sure what's going on hormonally and as far as inflammation is concerned as well. But it's also quite possible to really kind of whittle down okay, based on my symptoms, I have low cortisol, symptoms of low cortisol and high cortisol, which is really common, right? Low thyroid and insulin resistance, right? Some women come to the table already knowing that, but the advice for insulin resistance often is the complete antithesis of the advice for low thyroid. With insulin resistance, they're like, well, eat a low carb diet, exercise more, intermittent fasting. And with low thyroid, they're like, eat more carbs, don't do any sort of metabolic condition. So what the heck am I supposed to do? Right. So we have what's called our hormone hierarchy, where if you have multiple hormonal issues, which most women do, especially if you've come to buy a book called Hangry, at that point, more than one hormone out of whack, where if you address your most delicate hormones first, like low cortisol and low thyroid, and start to heal those, really what's magical about that is hormones downstream, like insulin resistance, estrogen and progesterone issues, they start to kind of naturally resolve once we get insulin and cortisol in check. But then we have obviously ways to tweak our plan and start off with to make it customizable to fit your hormonal profile. And then we really teach women how to tune in to their hormones. But we have several acronyms like ACEs, appetite, cravings, energy, sleep. Start to listen to what your hormones are saying to you, because they're talking at you all day long. And that is not following a diet plan. That is tuning in and listening and saying, like I said earlier, okay, I did not sleep well last night. I know I've got some symptoms of low cortisol. The last thing I need to do today is go crush myself in the gym to get that adrenaline hit, because that's just going to drive me further into the ground. So instead, I need to support my body with lots of really amazing nutrients. I need to drink a lot of water. I need to take a walk, and I need to go to bed on time. So helping women be more fluid with their health, because our health is fluid, and know how to adjust in real time. And it sounds complicated, but it's not. And the women we worked with, once they start to really, especially dive into mindfulness practice and mindset and start to just listen and be more present, it's so much easier to be like, okay, here's what I need to do next.
Right.
So that was a long answer to your short question.
I love it.
Yeah,
No, I love it.
It's good though.
Yeah. This is all the stuff, right?
That's all the things, and it's so important what you're saying about, taking things. And I love the idea of the hormone hierarchy, because
right.
it really is true. It's like the way that our hormones are set up. It's like those, I use this, I don't know, metaphor all the time. So I need to figure out what you actually call that, like pyramid of champagne glasses, right? Where you like pour some in the top. There's a name for it. But like when you pour things in the top and then it starts trickling down into everything else, and it's something that I think is incredibly important, is that we affect things as far upstream as possible and then let your body do the rest.
Right.
As soon as you start getting in there and starting to, trying to fine tune and tweak at the lower levels of the champagne glass pyramid, then you're playing whack-a-mole, you adjust this thing and then this goes out of whack. And it's like our bodies are really the only thing that know how to do this right. So I love what you're saying about that.
Yeah. And it applies sorry, Vanessa.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it applies to not just how we eat and how we live, but our exercise too, right? Like if you've never deadlifted before and you walk into the gym and you've never even exercised before and someone tells you, Adam, I want a 250-pound deadlift. My guess is you're not going to put them right on the barbell, right? You're going to be like, well, first you got to do some core strengthening.
Right.
And let's see what your mobility looks like, right? So there's a place to jump off for every single person, no matter where they are. And instead, we get really resistant to being where we are. And want it to be a quick, easy fix. And I remind women all the time, how long did it take for you to reach out to me, to work with me one-on-one, or to buy this book? Like, how long did it take you to get here to this place? And now let's just relax a little bit into being where you are right now and taking the steps we need to fill that top champagne glass first.
Right.
I love that. Like fill those ones up and then let it trickle down. Because it's very true, Adam. Like you can't just start chipping away at your foundation thinking you're going to make things better when you don't even have a foundation yet.
Right. Right. You're picking out the paint colors for a house that hasn't been built.
Right.
we love to use a house analogy around here too. It's one of our favorites.
I love it.
So, I'm thinking about the person because, oftentimes, you mentioned earlier that if you didn't have a good night's sleep and your cortisol's high and that, you've got some stuff going on and you're listening to these symptoms, but, and you're telling this person, okay, take a walk, be gentle with yourself. But there's a lot of people out there, especially in that type A personality, that are like, this is just my life. Like I'm always underslept. I'm always, this is who I am. And if I just take a walk or I'm gentle with myself every day, then I'm not going to get like any of the stuff done that I'm actually set out to do. So I'm curious what you say to that person.
Oh, absolutely. And I that is me. That's like talking to me, right? That is who I am essentially. So it goes back to the mindset component, right? Like we have become determined to not have time to do anything when it comes to self-care, right? Like that's because self-care is really tricky and we don't even really understand what that means. For most people, self-care is like, oh, I'm going to carve out time to get a manicure or go get a massage. And our book, the foundation of it is what we call our 5 pillars, which is really like, the foundation psychologically that we need in order to like be able to see who we are in the world and figure out how to make adjustments around it. And our very first pillar is find and commit to what works for you, which is really hard to do when we're overwhelmed, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do we do that when I don't even have time to go grocery shopping and, I'm really driven and going out and taking a gentle stroll? I don't even have time for that. Like I can get Orange Theory and get my ass kicked for 30 minutes because that feels productive, right? Because you get like a response from it, right? Like you feel a little bit better and then you don't, but you get that immediate response. And that's what we want is that immediate response. So our second pillar is opt out of overwhelm. And so we really ask women to start to dig in to see what is most important to you? Like, what are your priorities? And I'm not talking about like, do the dishes, get the lot, whatever, like, how about show up for my big, beautiful life and make sure I carve out time for real self-care, which means breathing for 5 minutes a day so that I can see what it feels like to finally be in my own body. Maybe it's carving out that time to take a walk, but doing it with a friend who I can talk to about how this is feeling for me. Maybe it's actually having a conversation with a person that I love, looking them in the eyes and actually feeling that connection. Maybe it's sitting down and crying. And none of this stuff really takes that much time, but it's really about that commitment to wanting to be more in control of what's happening in your ship, right? Like, we justify all the crazy things that we do in the name of distraction. And I always ask women, well, is this working for you? And when we really start to talk about it, then they'll start to admit that, no, this is not working for me. I feel awful. I have a client right now who I just started working with where this is me too. Everything's great. Like, I don't really have a lot to be stressed out about. Like, I have a great marriage and a great job and blah, blah, blah. And then we start talking and talking and talking. And she's like, but nothing I do brings me joy. Like, nothing I do brings me joy. So often out of overwhelm, we talk about like, okay, maybe you don't need to do like every single card pull and say yes to all the obligations and, the basic stuff that we hear about, taking things off your list, but we don't ever really do that. Like, we never really say no. We never really, not please that person because you're worried they're going to be mad at you. And instead of just being like, who cares if that person's mad at me? This is about me. I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm genuine, and I'm going to make myself a priority. So it's tough. It's really hard work. It's not easy.
It's so true. I just read this article the other day and it was talking about self-care being the biggest discipline. And I think we often think of it in really flowery, sort of like soft terms like, oh, self-care, like you said, it's a manicure, it's a pedicure, or it's going to get a massage. But self-care is actually one of the most disciplined things that you do, and it's, if you really embrace it as a concept, it's about making yourself take the time to care for yourself. And it is one of the biggest struggles that women have in particular.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if you're nurturing, right? Because I feel like I used to look at it as being really selfish for me to take that time because somehow that would distract from what I really needed to do with my children or my husband. But what it really did for me to not take that time for myself is it made me bitter and angry, and resentful, and nearly ruined my marriage and created this gap this distance between my oldest son and I, where he was like, God, Mom, what happened to you? And I'm like, well, I've taken care of all of you for so many years without paying any attention to myself that now I hate you all.
Right.
That is not a happy place to land at all. So now for me, like, my real self-care is self first, and not in a selfish way, but it helps me be able to genuinely show up for the people that need me and that love me, and they see me now, and I can actually see the people that I love and I want to be with in such a bigger, more profound way. Like, it opens up all sorts of space for people to take their power back and for me to take my power back. It's pretty remarkable, what just that one act, which is super hard to do, of doing some meditation, doing something that actually brings you joy every day, even if it's for 10 minutes, to lighten up a little bit and be loose and fluid and silly. Like, just for me, self-care doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't. It needs to be being alive and engaged. And that's it. But it's hard. You're right. It's the hardest thing we'll ever make.
It's so hard. And so I'm wondering, we all have this terminology in our sphere. So we all know, okay, I need to take care of me first before, it's like put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on others. Like, we all have this terminology in our sphere, but oftentimes it takes something pretty profound, sometimes awful, happening before it really resonates with us, before it really sinks in that, like, no, I have to do this because this is X, Y, and Z. And I'm wondering for you if there was a moment that, like, all of this terminology, all of this stuff actually sunk in and you were like, okay, that's it. If I take one more step in this direction of not caring for myself, it's going to be this. And I'm wondering if there was a moment that happened, and did that spur the book on, or was it like a gradual process of self-discovery?
That's a really good question. For me, it still is a gradual process of self-discovery. And, I think once we reach self-actualization, what they teach you in psychology is you actually die. Like, done, finito.
Right.
So I'm not able to do that yet. So
Yeah.
I can't say in any way, shape, or form that I've learned all there is to know about how to take care of myself the right way and how to, be as mindful as possible, because even the gurus, right, the teachers that I love to listen to, they won't even say that, right? Like, we're all human. So I feel like it's been kind of a gradual process for me as far as like an awakening is concerned, but there have definitely been very poignant moments where kind of like one of those kick in the gut moments where I'm like, okay, Sarah, if you don't really start to do the hard work, you're going to lose your family, or you're going to be alone, or whatever. Like, there definitely have been those, like, I just put a post up on Instagram, I don't know when yesterday actually, where I talked about like deep feelings and like how I've always had very deep feelings, but have suppressed them for years, not wanted to deal with them. And there have been like those bathroom floor moments of me finally deciding to feel those feelings where I literally thought it was going to kill me, where it was just so profound how much I have distracted from, that once I let it come up and through me, it was kind of that moment, one in particular that I'm remembering, where I thought, I was like thinking I need to go to the hospital and someone needs to put a straitjacket on me or give me some morphine, because this is too much emotional pain for me to carry. And I just, in that moment also decided that the only way through it was to just get through it. And if I took that route, it would be more distraction. And in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, like, this is why you have to take that next step of showing up for yourself, because you can't save it all for another 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because the next bathroom floor moment, it will kill you. Like, that will be the one that kills you. So when your feelings come up, Sarah, you've got to feel them. You have to address them. You need to talk about your shame and your needs and your happiness and your joy. And you need to be authentically who you are, or you will die. So I remember in that moment, just that realization of the next step is tomorrow. You show up for yourself. However that looks, I don't even know, but you're going to show up for yourself. So, and I don't want every woman to have that bathroom floor moment. I think it's really good for us to have those moments when we need to have them. But I don't want to have that be what the result, right? I don't want that to be the result. Like, now it's so much easier to be at peace when I can address stuff as it happens. So, yeah.
Amen, sister. I love it. I mean, no, thank you for sharing that, because I think so many people do wait for that bathroom floor moment. I don't know what it is about us as humans. We are like some of the most incredible things, but we are so damn resistant at times to do what we know is best for ourselves. And, and unfortunately, many of us have to have those come to Jesus moments before we finally show up and like you said, just show up for yourself. And so I think a lot of people can relate to that. I really appreciate you like sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I don't think I've ever asked such a personal question, and I love it. Thank you.
Well, we've known each other for a while, so it kind of breaks down some of the barriers. Yeah. So it's, it's one of these things that has been becoming kind of apparent to me lately. And I mean, like in the last 6 months, which may be hard to believe once I get over what I'm talking about. But that moment, that you're talking about, that bathroom floor moment, or, and we see it in in kind of the more health world too, right? Like, nobody's willing to change anything until they get the diagnosis or the labs back that say, guess what? This has to be done, right? It's that, like, they survive a heart attack and now they're finally going to do something about it, right? Yeah. And so the thing that I've been thinking about, and I'd be interested to get your input on how to improve this or shorten the timeline or something, is like what it takes to have those realizations early enough to be able to do something in the preventative phase, instead of being reactive to, said bathroom floor moment.
It's so individualized, right? And there are some people who have to have that kind of kick in the gut in order for them to decide that they want to make a change. I know people too who are, in my family, who are fully insulin dependent, and they just don't care. Like, it's very much reversible, preventable disease that this person I'm thinking of has. And all the information is right in front of them and it's their choice, right? Like some people just don't want to take that step and there's no judgment there, right? Like that's the beautiful thing about life is we can all be exactly who we are and we're free to be that person. So, I think if people want to have more or want things to be different, it's like this process of being your own best detective. So, I want to encourage young girls, especially, to take control early on of their health and their destiny and to know that it is totally okay to, I keep going back to saying this, but I think it's so important to be in your own body and to own it and to be proud of whoever you are and to be respectful and loving and encouraging of yourself, because I think that is the path to health. Even if no one ever even learns about the paleo diet with a Mediterranean twist or, how to lift weights or whatever, even what I'm trying to sell to people, if they don't ever pick at my book, if we can teach girls and boys too, I have boys, so I don't want to leave them out of the equation. And I try to instill this in them, to be really respectful and okay with their authenticity, then we don't end up getting to that point where we're like, what input can I give myself to not have to feel all this stuff that being human is, right? Like, what are the things that I can do, and, I have alcoholism in my family, and that's one way that you can go, right? To numb all that crap out. Or someone like me, where I'm going to like diet and exercise and, type A personality myself into disaster, or, the list goes on and on, right? Where I'm going to shot myself into oblivion, right? Like if we can start teaching people when they're really young to just embody their true amazingness and own it, we make better choices for ourselves that are more in alignment with who we really truly are, right?
Yeah.
So, for a grown-up person who's already in that space of like not wanting to like let that light in and really be open to what that looks like to start to wake up and be who they are, it's hard. It's really, you have to be ready. And often it means you have to be in a place of pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are so driven to avoid pain, right? Seek pleasure, avoid pain. Those are the things.
And there's nothing wrong with seeking pleasure, right? As long as it doesn't come with this price of taking away from your life, right? Like and even if it does, that's your choice too.
Right. Right. Because then it really gets back to like the soul's journey, right? And, the agreements you made and what you're here to do and all that good stuff. Yeah. And that kind of leads me to my next question is, what is your spiritual journey at this point? Is it, I'd love to just hear about what your practice is in terms of mindfulness or spirituality in general. What's really resonating with you? What is opening up new portals in your heart? What is expanding you in that regard?
Oh my gosh, so many things. So, I can't even list all the books that I've read over the years. Like once I start to like get on to some, new thing, like I just dive all in full board. But what I do know about myself right now, and I've coined this my spiritual IV. Like I need to just like always be tapped in, because if I'm not, my tendency is to spin out and really get off track of what's important. And, I think the book Untethered Soul by Michael Singer was like, for me, a real awakening to that voice in my head versus me being in my driver's seat and being in my heart and being able to observe what's going on right here instead of getting caught up in it. So I have a daily practice where I quote unquote try to meditate in the morning, but I'm also not perfect at that. But when I am a regular meditator, I can see how that transfers over so gracefully into my life and my ability to be able to show up better and be more present. So I try to meditate in some form every day. I usually end up falling asleep to a meditation, which is just very grounding. And I'm able to let go of all the crap in my head before I fall asleep, which helps me sleep better, which I think is so important. But I try every day to have a reminder of some sort of how important it is for me just to pay attention and to really be engaged with the people that I love. And you'll see a lot of that in the book. We talk about full engagement living. It's one of our pillars, and being who you are. So when I start to second guess myself or be really critical of maybe something I said or something that I did, I really try to practice forgiveness of myself more than anything. And, just being at ease and at peace. And when I feel really stressed out, I use a bunch of the tools that are in the book, like just parasympathetic breathing, just going back to my breath and feeling that connection. And every day I pray, and as often as I can. When I'm spun out in my head, I go to my prayer, which is different every day, but it's kind of along the same vein of just, let me just be a light in the world, and let me lead with love, and let me be an example, and show me what I'm supposed to do next, and let me stay open. So, I'll go to prayer, which I think for me, it's not a religious thing. It's just tapping into just this bigger universal presence that I think connects us all. And then just really, like I mentioned, just connecting with people who I know are going to be holding my hand on my deathbed. That's all that we have at the end of the day are those connections. It doesn't matter how much money is in my bank account, or what car I'm driving, or what kind of refrigerator I have, or how many Instant Pots I have. Like, I want my kids to know how much I love them. And I want my husband to know that he's the person I want to come home to. And I want my dogs to know that they're the best dogs ever, And that's it. That's at the end of the day, that is my spiritual practice, is just love. And not feeling like I need to get all this stuff from them, because I can give that to myself now. And then I get all that stuff from them, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yes, right? That surrender piece again, right? Just surrender it and allow it to come back in instead of trying to control it all, right?
Exactly. Which is so much easier just to control it all, except for it doesn't work.
Except for when it doesn't work,
Yeah.
So I have these animal spirit cards.
We're going to do a virtual animal spirit.
And I was wondering if you'd be down for me to draw one for you, because I feel like this might be the moment.
Okay. And I'm going to trip out if it's the one I think it is.
Oh, okay. Well, so here's how it goes. You have to send me, I'm going to get them out of the box really quick. Let me see.
Okay. I wish I could see you.
I know. So, okay. And I'm holding them up to the camera. You'll be able to see this.
Okay.
Wait, so she can't see me, Adam?
No.
Okay. Sorry, you can't see me. This is a really interesting setup we have, so I'm never sure who can see who.
Everyone on the internet can see all of us, but we can't see you.
Okay, perfect.
I'm visualizing though, Vanessa. I totally know.
Okay, but I'm going to put these up so that the rest of the internet can see them, because then you could go back and you can watch it. But these are these really beautiful cards. They're animal spirit cards by Susan Seddon Boulay. And I love them. So, okay, you're going to send me your energy, and I'm going to shuffle, and then you're going to tell me which card to draw, so that it's all you, and I'm just the conduit for which the card gets drawn.
Okay.
Gets drawn.
All right. So you have to tell me when you're shuffling.
Okay, I'm shuffling.
Currently shuffling.
Okay.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Okay, now.
Ooh.
Leopard.
Ah, wow. What does this mean?
Leopards are phenomenal hunters known for their stealth and ability to stalk prey. Ooh, nice. The snow leopard, which lives in the mountains of Central Asia, is among the more mysterious of the species and was believed to have drawn the blood of its human victims without eating the flesh. Woo!
That's handy.
You're crushing it. By feeding on the life force blood and avoiding weakness, the leopard was thought to maintain its strength and purity. And it stands for stealth, strength, and purity. And it's beautiful. I know you can't see it now, but you have to check it out later. But do you have any association with cats? Like, does that animal, like, do you feel called to that spirit animal at all?
No, you know what? That is definitely not one that I have thought about as being my spirit animal before. When I was a little girl, I loved cats. Like, I had a bunch of cats growing up.
Yeah.
We grew up on a farm, right? And cats were like disposable. And I remember my dad be like, I'd be like, where's my cat? And he'd be like, I got ate by a coyote. And I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
And I think because I had so much like loss around my cats. I haven't had a cat as an adult. I've only had dogs.
You had to like shut down that side of your heart. It was too painful.
no more cats being my coyotes.
But you know, this is actually interesting because stealth, strength, and purity. And you know, actually, when I think about that with you, though, I do think about like, you know, you're a tiny little thing, but like the power you have is really amazing. And you know, it's like, I don't want to say like it's underdogish or whatever, but there's something in the way that like you definitely can come out from almost like nowhere with this strength. And it's like, wait, where did that come from? Right. And so I could see like for me reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that like you just have this inner strength that is almost stealthy in a way. You know, you're not out there like parading it around and like showing it off, but then the way that you show up is just so strong and so pure. And so for me, like, I totally could see this.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for breaking that down. I really appreciate that. And that's really touching. Thank you. Oh, that makes more sense now for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because often, right, we don't necessarily see those parts of ourselves. No. Like the way we see ourselves is different than maybe the way other people see us. And so like when I look at that, I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. You know, ever since I've known you, it's always like out of nowhere comes this strength and this like thing, and you just show up and you're present and you're like charging it and you're going for it. And it's like, wait, when did she even like start writing a blog? Like what's happening? Like, how do I even? So anyway, I totally see this and think it's a beautiful card too. So when you have a chance, you can look at it online.
Definitely, I will. Thank you so much. That was super fun. Oh, I appreciate that. Yay.
Yeah. I love all the hippie shit, you know.
Oh, I know. I love it too. I know. But you're so much better at it than I am. I'm like a pseudo hippie. I like really like all that stuff. And then I'm like, I felt lavender in my washing machine today. Nailed the hippie.
I'm checking my hippie box.
Right. I'm like, I have crystal in my purse. I totally got
that. Awesome. I love it. Well, you know, here's the thing. I think that like, it's all, like you said, it's all different for all of us. Right. And our journeys are all slightly different. And, you know, I think for me, like, it was crystals first and then like the other stuff later. And sometimes it's like we all just come into our path in like different ways, right?
Oh, we do. And it's all totally good and fine.
It is. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be like this one way, right? And which is why, you know, I love reading about all like the different mindfulness practice. And we spend a lot of time in Buddhist countries where I like, you know, that's really attractive to me too. Like, I like to cherry pick my spirituality. There's, you know, I grew up in a really, really hardcore, to be long story short, like cult-like Christian home where it was very guilt-based and oppressed and not good in a lot of ways. So my parents were very loving and, amazing in a lot of ways too, right? Like very loving. And so I even fall back on my Christian roots, you know, and I pull from those values where before I was too scared to. I'm like, I'm never going back there. That was so dramatic. But now it's like, okay, I can see so much good in all of this. Like Jesus was a cool dude and
for sure.
And you know, all of them, all the big dudes on the playing field and goddesses and everyone, right? Like, I just think it all leads back to me to the same space, which is just love. And that keeps it simple for me, right? Like love, that's, if we all just could get on board with that a little bit.
Yeah. Or a lot. I'm totally, And awesome. I love this. This is so great. And then whenever you're ready to do the plant medicine, you know, you can come do it with us too. We're ready for you.
I know. We're not even that far away from each other. So.
I know we're not that far. I know that is the crazy thing. Is it like, but California is big. To be fair, it's like.
It is. It's like the size of Italy. And I'm feeling like so nostalgic right now because John just popped his head in and I know we're live, but he was like your voices and he just popped back out. But he says to hello and he loves you guys. So.
Yeah, we love him too. We love both of you guys and it's great to catch up. So tell folks where they can find the book, where they can find more information, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so Hangry is out in the world now. It was born on July 2nd, I think was the release date. So now you can find it anywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, wherever, right? So that's easy to find. You can find more about Dr. Brooke and I at sarahanddrabrooke.com. And we're both on social media, unfortunately, because that's a thing.
It is. I know.
But, we both try to just, share things that are really helpful and from our hearts. So if you want to follow us there, I am Sarah_Fragoso on Instagram. Sarah, I think it's the real Sarah Fragoso on Facebook. I still have my Everyday Paleo page on Facebook. I'm all over the place. Just Google me. Google me.
Find a way in.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so awesome catching up. And it's great. This podcast, I love it. It gives us like an opportunity to catch up with the people we love, to talk with people and like really share conversation. And it's just such a special way to stay connected. So it's been so fun to just have you on the show. And gosh, it's been a long time coming. This is like, we're so glad we finally connected.
Well, me and all of my people here. I'm so glad to. Thank you guys so much. It was just wonderful to see your face, Adam, and
hear my voice.
You guys lots of love and hugs.
Awesome. Love you, girl. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Thanks, folks, for joining us on that podcast. We really enjoyed that catch up with our dear friend Sarah, and we hope that you guys did too. Mm-hmm. Make sure to check out the book Hangry, which is out now in all the stores, and make sure to take 30 seconds right now and leave us a 5-star review if you are enjoying this podcast and you've yet to leave us a review.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it.
I think you can leave multiple, right?
No. Because
Sure
I would have
can.
left like 4,000 for us.
No. You just have to like go create a new account, change your
account, get a new thumbprint. Oh, wait. We have like the biggest news ever, and we didn't talk about it.
That's true.
We won Best Paleo Retreats in Paleo Magazine.
In Paleo Magazine's
Best of
competition.
Paleo
Best
edition.
of Paleo competition. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't lead with that.
I know.
It's so funny because we knew like months and months ago that we placed because they asked for some photos and stuff, but you kind of don't know. So you just sort of forget about it. So there's all this like preamble. And I mean, it's like 6 months ago. So by the time the magazine comes out, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh, cool. And we won.
Yeah.
And apparently we got 3rd place in Best Fitness.
Best Paleo Fitness website.
Obviously, we don't know 100% for sure because we actually haven't received our magazine, but we've been contacted by several people letting us know that they see us in the magazine. So we're really excited about that. And obviously, that just means so much to us because we have worked our butts off on creating this wellness brand and creating events that inspire you to new heights and create total possibility and transformation in your life. And goddamn, somebody gave us some recognition.
Which is great. And I think a lot of it has to do with you folks showing the love.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a massive reflection of, the reviews that you leave us in other ways.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yes. Thank you all so much because you really don't, it's like, this business is such a grind. And so you never know. You're like, are we making a difference? Is it happening? What's happening? Like, what is this working? And so it's the little things like this when our community takes a stand for us and lets us know like, yes, you're here, you're supporting. And we just really appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts.
We do.
So thank you very much.
We love you.
We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.